Warren Buffett once said, price is what you pay, value is what you get. But where is the value in a lower luxury tax bill? Peyton Watson is gone, and we're breaking down all of the fallout. Stay tuned. Welcome to What's in a Game. I'm Grace Jean here with my co-host Will Jones. How are you doing today on this overcasty Thursday for me? Will?
Yeah, I'm glad the trade didn't happen later in the week. We aimed for Thursday, so now we can come on and commiserate with everyone. But still processing, came out of nowhere. When I saw the Shams alert, I thought it had to be fake again. Like it was like the Luka trade all over again, which this was much more believable than the Luka trade. But as a Nuggets fan, you kind of weren't expecting this.
So I was literally like walking out the door. Like I was locking my door because I was on my way to watch a Valkyries game with some friends. And I got an alert from a group chat and someone said, Watson officially gone. And I immediately opened Twitter and I'm like, what is this?
It's pretty shocking.
I was like, well, my evening is ruined before it even starts. We're going to talk about the trade and the fallout of all of that and all of the complicated and not so complicated feelings associated with what Denver decided to do here. But it won't all be depressing. Stay tuned till the end for a little afternoon tea session on what's going on with the Lakers and the ambiguous state of the Los Angeles Clippers investigation by the league. Is it over? Is it not over? We're going to find out. Before we get started, please do us a favor, hit the like and subscribe buttons. It really helps us out with the algorithm as we try and grow the channel. Just as a couple of quick Denver Nuggets franchise news bits. These were going to be the headline pieces about Denver in the episode before yesterday at around 5 p.m. Pacific. They hired a new vice president of player development, Austin Defoe. I think that's how you pronounce it, Defoe or Default. And I thought that was interesting because did they have one before or did they create this position?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because we didn't hear about any like firings or guys that left.
I feel like it has to be, it was someone's responsibility who was also doing other things. And now they just have a dedicated one, maybe? That'd be my best guess. Like maybe that was like part of John Wallace's thing a little bit. Or like maybe he collaborated
he's the executive
with
vice president of player personnel. So it would be like, but now they have somebody that is dedicated to player development, you know, in all of those, all that entails. I'm actually looking through the basketball staff on the Nuggets website right now. And we've got, directors of scouting, analytics, team operations, a scouting coordinator, professional scouting, basketball operations. We've got the head coach and all the assistant coaches. We've got a player development coach, but we don't have somebody who is sort of overseeing like everything that goes into like the broad terms of player development. So I do think that they created a new position as that's what I'm able to gather in that. It's interesting because this happened before the Peyton Watson news. What does this tell you about what the team is trying to do in light of the Peyton Watson news? Or maybe not including it at all, but it's sort of like, are these things in conflict or are they not,
I mean, I don't know what direction the Nuggets are going to go. They need to get younger. And I thought that Peyton would be part of that. And like he's a young player who has playing time and was just getting used to playing with the starters on the Nuggets. Seemed like a perfect fit. for that, but alas, the Cronkies couldn't pay for it, I guess, at the end of the day. So, I mean, we'll talk
Right.
about it, but I don't know. Maybe they really believe in Trev in Brazil and they didn't believe in Pwat.
We're going to get to that conversation, but there are a lot of thoughts that I have about why it doesn't matter whether they believed in Peyton at all. The point was to get as much out of the leverage that you had in this situation.
Mm,
But we'll get to that. Anyway, new VP of player development. Other more sort of ancillary to basketball personnel news, a much more happy news. It's interesting that this came literally like an hour, 2 hours before the Peyton Watson trade news. But Altitude announced their new broadcast team. Big congratulations to Katie Wingy, who's going to be the new lead color commentator on the calls. They also hired Noah Reed for play-by-play. He's previously, and I don't know if he's going to be continuing some of his roles working for Fox Sports and NBC Sports while doing this. Seems like a lot. As well as Jason Richardson, pictured to Katie's right there, who's going to be doing pregame coverage. So fresh faces on the Altitude broadcast. It's interesting to me that there was, I get not announcing the like firing slash restructuring like immediately before you announce the new team, but it's interesting how long of a delay there was between the two. Um but I mean, on one hand, you could say like, well, they gave Marlo and Hastings, I guess, an opportunity to like get their stuff in order, like with whatever
hmm
they were going to do next. Obviously, we talked about Hastings is going to be staying on at like Altitude Sports Radio, but maybe he's going to have other gigs lined up like on top of that. Now, um, I'm not sure what Marlo is going to be doing next, or if
I
he's going to be just kind of taking a step back. I can't imagine that's a really tough thing to take a step back from when you've been doing it for so long.
mm,
And I remember, like, even outside of Altitude, I remember listening to him on the volleyball calls for the Olympics for the 2024 summer. Yeah. Summer
yeah,
Olympics as well. So I wonder if he'll be continuing some of that work. But obviously, this announcement was about the brand new team. This comes over a month after we find out that Marlon Hastings would not be returning as the lead dudes. And I think in that previous announcement, we knew that Bill Hanslick wouldn't be doing the studio work anymore, and I think Vic Lombardi is going to be uh, kind of taking lead on that. And I know like Katie was doing the studio show, and obviously she's going to be moving up to color commentary now. So
yeah, definitely happy about that. But I had tweeted about this being some good Nuggets news. I mean, regardless, yeah, no matter what you think of Marlo and Hastings, I'm excited about Katie Wingy. So I was happy about that news. Finally got something good for the Nuggets. But then the Pwat trade came right after that. And so I was like, oh my God, we got one bit of possibly good news, depending on how you look at it. I like Katie a lot, so I think it's going to be awesome. But shortly undercut
aren't
by
you
bigger
supposed
news.
to do like bad news? You put it in the middle of the sandwich. So this was one piece of bread, and then they gave us the bad news with the Payton deal. Where's the other piece of bread? Where's the other good news?
Yeah,
Here.
like Maddie Loops is saying, don't. Why are we indulging the Nuggets tend to flood the market with news to distract from the terrible trade? Yeah. We only got
We're
one piece of
going to
bread,
we're
so
going to spend the vast majority of the show talking about the terrible trade. But we wanted to cover this again. Congrats to Katie Wingy. Anything else you want to say about this before we jump into the terrible trade? Well,
no. Just get to it.
all right. Peyton Watson has been traded to the Cleveland Cavaliers. The Cavaliers ended up moving Max Strus to the LA Clippers. They used the traded player exception that was created when they traded John Collins. Um, they traded John Collins like at the beginning of the off season, right? Yeah. So they had that exception to use, and they were able to take on Max Strus. It's interesting what this does for the Clippers, because this impacts sort of how much apron room they have to maneuver for Benedict Matherin's position as a restricted free agent. It's kind of funny because like he and Peyton don't have like dissimilar careers. But Peyton has been sort of the talk of the offseason. Another just kind of result of this right now, the Clippers do have too many players as a result of this deal. They have 16 now on their standard roster, which is more than the 15. But if the investigation concludes and the Kawhi trade with the Raptors goes through, they'll have 18 players, which is too many. So it'll be interesting to see, how they deal with that, whether they like do some consolidation trades or just cut guys. For the Cavaliers, they are now, because they acquired a player in a sign and trade, hard capped at the first apron, which affects what they can pay James Harden. But we just got news, like literally within the last, I think, 2 hours before the show, that James Harden is signing a 3-year, was it 3 years, 79 million, or was it 90? Let me grab that one from Shams. I was so concerned with the Peyton Watson of it all that so James Harden is going to be 3-year 97. That makes more sense because I was like, I know it's around 30 million AAV, or over that, closer to 35. Curious because they have to do some cap maneuvering too because of this hard cap that they take on as a result of trading for Peyton Watson. They might have to move some more money. So the Cavs actually sent Trey Mann, who they had traded for with the Hornets. They had traded Dennis Schroeder to the Hornets for Trey Mann, as well as a second rounder that they got from the Clippers in the Max Strus deal. It's interesting that Max Strus goes for 1 second round pick, but obviously the Cavs were trying to move money, so they're in a pretty desperate position. In that sense, or not a leverage position. They traded Trey Mann to the Wizards for Cam Whitmore, and according to Bobby Marks, they're planning on waiving Cam Whitmore. So that's another, source of perhaps getting under their first apron hard cap while paying Harden what he apparently wants to make, which is like pretty close to what he had been making, only a couple million less. And this ended up being like a 5-team. The reason I'm just going through like all the little bits before we get to the implications. The Wizards, for their part, sent Denver a 2-way player, Julian Reese, who Denver is going to waive. So that's not going to count towards their 2-way allocation. All right, reactions to the deal before we get to the bad stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you just have to. Oh, well, hang on. Like the first civilized reaction to the deal. We'll get to the other stuff, but you just have to bow down to Clutch Sports because they were in a complete non-leverage position. They had probably pissed everybody off with their multi-week sporadic media blitz about how Denver was like totally shortchanging Peyton with this offer, and how them putting out there, and then somebody from Peyton's team having to walk back that Peyton demands to be paid more than Christian Brown, and all of that stuff. And again, in a non-leverage position because they weren't able to secure an offer sheet before all the cap space dried up. They were dealing with teams that didn't have cap space, that didn't have trade exceptions. And yet they still managed to land Peyton a very likely starting spot on a team that's going to be good in the East. 4 years, $88 million contract. So an average annual value of $22 million a year, clear starter money with a player option. So he is going to be able to, he has the guarantee of 4 years if he wants to, but he also has the option to re-enter free agency like in like the young years of his prime. And apparently he got a trade kicker too. Like Shams is listing all this like good stuff for the agents, but actually I was just like, well, I guess these agents did do a good job because I did not think that Peyton was going to be able to land all of these things in a trade, in particular because I like Denver held all the cards here, and we're going to talk about that too. But from the player's perspective, this is the best like possible reasonable outcome for him.
This is the best possible reasonable outcome for him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he didn't get more than
he's not going to be making more than Christian next year.
So
that's true.
He kind of lost on that front, but
but it doesn't matter because they're not on the same team anymore.
Yeah. But still he's still kind of the like, just because he's on the same team, I don't think he would give up that idea, but at least it's not like right in front of his face.
Right. I don't. Well, we also don't, like I said, those reports were being put out there by Clutch. They had to be walked back by someone on Peyton's team. So we don't actually know that meant anything outside of a negotiating position for the agent.
Mm-hmm. But I don't know. The fact that he's traded, we don't know how he feels necessarily at all, but like we don't know anything other than it was likely because of money.
For generational money. I think he's probably feeling pretty good.
Yeah, I'm just saying from the Nuggets perspective, was there a part of him that didn't seem satisfied with the Nuggets? Whatever. You can speculate about that. I'm just saying the fact that the Nuggets kind of did this and it surprised me in a way has me thinking about what Peyton really wanted, and if he didn't see his role on Denver being exactly what he wanted, and he would rather have gone somewhere else ultimately. Just because there's no guarantee, because he's going to develop into the player he's going to develop into now, and that's going to be different than the player he would have developed being on Denver. Like that's just the reality.
Maybe he might be playing a pretty similar role in Cleveland, even though he's going to be a starter.
Yeah, but with some different pieces and different styles. But I mean, we're just never
right. He's going to be a starter on a team that has more on-ball creators on it than Denver does.
So we would have relied on him to be more of an on-ball creator when he was here.
But he would just be coming off.
It might not have worked out very well.
Or not, because like they could have, like a lot of people thought, and after seeing this, I think pretty likely if they had paid Peyton, they would have traded another starter and Peyton would have ended up starting. So like, yeah, it is what it is. All right, let's jump into the negatives of this from the team side, because I had so many thoughts about this. Well, you asked me what my first reaction was. I was like, this number better be so damn high when I go to the Shams post for whatever this trade was. Denver wasn't willing to pay $22 million a year. They were already offering 18. They were already offering 18 million a year. Okay. This was purely financially motivated on its face. So like, we know that it was going to be purely financially motivated. However, this ended up because like Bobby Marks said a couple of weeks ago, if there were no aprons, would Peyton be paid? Would Denver pay Peyton? I'm like, yeah, there would already be a deal done because they would have gotten something done last summer if the aprons didn't exist. And I'm talking about the aprons both in terms of the team building restrictions as well as the escalated luxury tax multipliers associated with having a higher payroll. Okay. So all of that BS about there being no mandate from on high from KSC to cut payroll was obviously false, because this was a deal in which they let a player go and took no money back And I know there were mechanics associated with that that would have required them to send out like a Zeke Naji type even like Julian Strother. Like we talked mostly about Zeke because I don't think that Denver was in a leverage position to not have to give up a player that they wanted just to make, salary matching rules work. Right? Obviously they didn't use that leverage. But yeah, all of that stuff about how, well, there's no mandates from ownership to cut payroll. Obviously false, right? There's not even an argument here that this is like, well, this was actually like a good, value move, and we also get like this young, useful like bench player. No. Okay.
Well, yeah.
And
Nothing, at least for right now. I mean, I don't know what they're going to, any move they make down the road, they'll try to like wrap this into
you
justification.
do not make this move for non-financial reasons without having the next move already lined up that can be looped in as part of the trade.
Yeah.
You don't do that.
Maybe you're going to talk about the luxury tax soon, but how do you separate, the 22 AAV, which is not 28, it's not 30, like those numbers we were talking about in the, oh my God, we're going to lose him, he's going to get a bag, he's going to get 28 million, we can afford that. 22 definitely seems reasonable just alone, but the fact that it's a crazy multiplier on the luxury tax bill, like 161 million or whatever it is, how do you like separate that out when you're thinking about it?
When I'm thinking about the difference between 18 and 22 for them?
Yeah, or just the fact that like you can pay him 22 a year. That doesn't seem crazy, but then
they also didn't have to. They agreed to this trade and they didn't have to do that.
Yeah, well, them losing all their leverage and agreeing to something they didn't have to is really frustrating.
That's the crux of what we're going to be talking about here today. Because even if all you wanted to do was save money, this move did not save you money. Like, you're not going to have to pay Peyton and the associated luxury tax payments. Denver is still over the second apron right now, which I'm going to get to. Okay. But I want to work through all these talking points because I really want to drive the point home in as coherent a manner as possible. I spent hours trying to organize my thoughts on this trade last night. Okay. So again, Denver wasn't willing to pay him, clearly financially motivated. People will say, oh, well, like you said, well, he didn't want to be here. Maybe he didn't want to be here. You know who would not give two damns? Danny Ainge. Okay. And that is why the Utah Jazz went up, even if they're trading a player who doesn't want to be in Utah. And also, like, I don't know how many players in Utah want to be in Utah. They don't leave a negotiation without having like winning it. Right? They had the upper hand. The whole like, oh, like this player's feelings are gonna like let me as the team lose a leverage position to get as much of this deal as possible, even if what I'm doing in the deal is ultimately letting that player go. Like that's absurd on its face. And I don't know why this deal happened when it did after the media storm had calmed down. I thought, okay, like they survived the initial blitzkrieg by Clutch, or like the secondary blitzkrieg by Clutch because they were trying some stuff early in the offseason. Then after the Spencer Jones deal is when it really ramped up, as we talked about, right? And they didn't allow themselves to be like pressured into like a suboptimal deal, as was some of the offers that were being floated were. For example, Milwaukee not wanting to give up Ryan Rollins, not wanting to give up a first round pick. If you have leverage, you use it, especially if the guy is going to be out the door anyway. Right? Like like he's going to be gone. Accept that and make sure that what you're getting out of the deal sets you up to be in a better position, or in a position that is at least as good as you were coming out of it or going into it. Denver got no player back, okay? And this is obviously related to the fact this was financially motivated. I genuinely did not think that they would be stupid enough to engage in a deal that made the team inarguably worse in the short term and probably the medium term, right? And that's what they did. They gave up Peyton for nothing. They got a draft pick back. That's not a player. That does not contribute to the roster. That does not make the team better or even different in a way that you could imagine being better for the foreseeable season. By the way, the last season that you are guaranteed to have Nikola Jokic under contract right now, which is insane to me. Like, you and I talked about it, Will. Like, here are Peyton's options, and like, this is what his agents should be asking for from teams that are interested in doing a sign and trade for him. Make sure that they can send a viable player back. We got reports that Denver's asking price was 2 firsts or 1 first and a useful player.
Yeah.
They got 1 first and no useful player from the leverage position.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this in a second, but also Zeke not being included, which also was part of like a report. I don't know how true it is, of course, but maybe considering someone taking on Zeke to sweeten the deal of a Pwat trade. And it's just interesting seeing the trade they accepted.
A lot of people saying like, Grace, like, you're asking for too much. Like, yeah, Denver, like, this is their starting position is like 2 firsts or like a first and a useful player. But if you replace like the first or the useful player with like moving Zeke's contract, then like that could totally be worth it, right? Guess what? They didn't do that either. This was a pure salary dump, and it was a bad one. Again, like we talked about with the MPJ trade, although at least in that instance, you get back a good starting caliber player back, and it was even though it was still clearly a salary dump, they weren't able to include Zeke Naji in that deal to the Brooklyn Nets. Weren't able to push for that for whatever reason, even though they included their furthest out draft pick at the time. No money comes off of Denver's books, and that is why they're still over the second apron. They hadn't signed Peyton yet. The only thing that was on their cap sheet was Peyton's qualifying offer, which was like, what, $6 million? Okay, well, they're still over the second apron right now because they didn't push for whatever team that wanted Peyton to send back a useful player, which would have forced that team to either take Zeke Naji back or figure out somewhere else to take it back. Make it their problem. You had the leverage position. You were in control of Peyton Watson's sign and trade future. You did not opt to leverage that to do the thing that is clearly the prime directive of this move in the first place, which is to save money by moving Zeke Naji's contract. This contract is going to survive a nuclear holocaust. Well, like,
yeah,
Zeke Naji has outlasted KCP,
just a
MPJ,
Nuggets legend,
and now Peyton Watson. If I told you that after they signed Zeke to his extension, what would you have said in like October of 2024? If I said Zeke will still be on the team when KCP, MPJ, and Peyton Watson are not.
Yeah, I mean, so this is right after if you asked me right after he got his extension.
Yes.
I would have thought Zeke was like amazing.
And that the coaches suddenly trusted him, right? Yeah. Like, and like he's like finally like and like he like the game finally clicked for him. But again, Cleveland wanted Peyton. They have been desperately searching for a starting caliber wing to complete whatever experiment they continue to have going on over there with Donovan Mitchell and the two bigs, and you know the two lead guards and the two big situation that they've got going on over there desperately. And for whatever reason, they wanted to focus all of their efforts on Peyton Watson over Jonathan Kuminga, who is an unrestricted free agent right now. Doesn't have quite the same restrictions that Peyton Watson is under, although both would have probably had to be sign and trade candidates. So they wanted Peyton. Maybe Denver was like, well, we don't want them to pivot to Kuminga, which tells you that Denver was desperate to get rid of Peyton, even though, again, there were other teams that were supposedly interested. And that is a terrible position to be in. Again, why the hell did they do this now? Their starting position was 2 firsts to consider moving Peyton. Then we get the later reporting. We'll get one first and a useful player. They got a first. Wasn't even Cleveland's best first round pick. And they didn't even get a first round pick in a year that they don't have one. And what is that like? What does that mean for Denver's so-called flexibility? Right? They currently have only one tradable first round pick. They had none before this trade because they have no picks in those odd numbered years. You have to have a draft. You can't not have a first round draft pick for 2 consecutive years. So they weren't allowed to trade the picks that they had. But if, for example, they'd gotten a 2032, like they got a 2031 first round pick, if they got a 2032, that would have unlocked all of the picks adjacent. Instead, they just get a 2031, which is like a worse pick because everyone likes the ones that are further out. At least like it's all theoretical because this is like 5-6 years into the future. And it's not the one that would have been like you're not even asking for the best one they have, which is the 2033, but you couldn't even squeeze out the 2032 to give you more trade flexibility with your draft picks. Like you were in the leverage position against all freaking odds. Denver is never in the leverage position because they always put themselves in terrible financial straits, or like the contract they're trying to move is bad, and so they're the ones giving up draft capital. Finally, you are in a position where you can start to rebalance the scales. And this is the way that I'm talking right now is us. It's like, okay, Peyton's gone. What can we do with that? This isn't me sort of being like, oh, which we will make the argument like, why didn't you just keep Peyton? But let's assume that they were like, nope, we got to cut money. Peyton's got to go. It's just not going to work. You need to get as much out of that as you can. And they did not do that. They didn't do that. Yeah. Right. And that is on ownership. That's absolutely on the front office as well. Right. Because the directive could come from on high that you need to slash money. But it's your job to get the most out of each deal that you possibly can. And you are, again, finally in the leverage position. And you were not able to inarguably win the trade. You weren't even inarguably able to say, we made the team like better in a different way. Even if you guys can't see it, it's better in a different way. Like, no, you made the roster worse. You just removed a player. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they always operate in a transparent way, whether they're explicitly transparent and negotiating against themselves, like we saw with Booth on draft night, trading with the Suns. And in this case, it's like they kind of admitted, yeah, we don't have the leverage in terms of how they agreed to this.
But they did.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. But because they're like, whatever they're thinking about, saving money being the priority, making sure they're dumping this salary because of the money, they're acting as if they don't have leverage, which then gives the trade partners the leverage. And it's just ridiculous.
Will, this is why I didn't want them to do anything this summer.
Yeah, I know. We were like, we don't really trust them. What are they going to do?
Don't trust them.
And I wanted to see them fleece someone for once and not just like accept these like shitty offers that we're getting.
You could be like, well, I didn't value, like you could be somebody that says I didn't value Peyton that much. I'm not necessarily like there. Like I probably think that there are some people that undervalue him and some people that overvalue him. It's not about how much the team valued Peyton. It's about what they could get for how other teams value Peyton. Cleveland valued Peyton enough to give him a 4-year deal with a player option and chuck another starter for basically nothing. Like they were dumping Max Strus anyway. Right? They wanted him. You need to use that. They don't use that. They never use that. Like the one time was when apparently Sacramento came to them and were like, oh, could you trade us Dario Saric for Jonas Valanciunas? Okay, cool. Like, but there's just no vision here. Like I've been talking about the poor asset management, which is like all up and down this deal, right? Because the point is you needed to fix past ills. You couldn't end up neutral or slightly negative on this deal. You're so deep in the hole financially and with your other assets and with what you need to do to fix the roster as a team that wants to be, quote unquote serious, that you have to win something. Like you haven't won any major
Mm-mm.
transactions.
Yeah, it's like we're always trying. Every transaction,
Just
it
falling
puts
further
us a little
behind.
bit further behind. Yeah, every time, just not catching up any ground on these moves, and we keep making them, digging a further hole. And it's like, is there a potential that they could salvage something? I guess we'll talk about that later, but because obviously this isn't the end of this. We'll see what they do next. But I mean, how can you feel good about what they would do after this? Because this is a pure money decision.
Bad asset management is one thing. But Denver is, like I said, completely lacking in a vision, short, medium, or long term for this roster. The vision and strategy is crossing their fingers right now. They are hoping Aaron Gordon can stay healthy in his age 32 season. Because, they've got a million forwards behind him. Maybe one less now that Peyton's not on the roster. And the only one who maybe has a shot at being starting caliber behind him is somebody who the coaching staff didn't even want to play when half the roster was decimated by injury in Deron Holmes. They're hoping Christian Braun's ankle fully heals and that he suddenly becomes the level of defender that we just haven't seen from him for any sustained stretch of time in terms of being the level of defender that makes the kind of money that he makes, right? That whose contract makes up the percentage of the cap that his contract makes. And I mean much better defender than the season that got him that contract, by the way. They're hoping Christian Braun takes the kind of skill leap that, frankly, I've never seen before in terms of like, well, we've never seen this player be able to do this, but suddenly they're able to do this. You've had players show flashes or like you see it here and there, but then the volume goes up or something. Because Denver has run out of functional upside, and that is players that can develop skills that will actually be relevant during the rest of whatever remains of Denver's title window. Chill Juicy on Twitter. Will Barton, union leader, had a great quote from them. Watson represented not only star potential, but the chance at a Nuggets variant. As it stands, the Nuggets roster is beyond disappointing. It's truly stale and boring. Now, what the sentiment that he's representing here is more about the team as it is, in terms of like you could like slot in Peyton for like any one of these other players and like play around with lineups and try and figure out things that are viable and just try out different things. We talked, I think it was last week, you and I talked about, well, the idea that not having Peyton puts even more pressure on your next big retool move down the road. So you just took away flexibility from yourself in terms of restructuring the team. Whether that's at the trade deadline or a year from now. Because you just got rid of an athletic two-way wing who, regardless of like where the offense goes, he's going to be able to do something on offense. Who had some shot creation chops and could, even if he wasn't like amazing at it, like could slot into the 4, could slot in at the 2, or even experiment with some point. To the point where you could see like, oh well, if we trade Jamal Murray, like would we have to trade like for another guard? If we trade Aaron Gordon, like do we have to basically replace exactly what he is, or could we play around with some things because Peyton is here? In terms of like what we get back. Now those trades, whenever they happen, have so much more pressure on them to fill in specific functions that they just don't have anymore as any kind of secondary, like, fill-in player that Peyton had, or any kind of redundancy in those roles.
Yeah, the chat's talking about this as well. I'm just being frustrated with the owners in the front office, and you just touched on bad asset management and the team being a little stale in terms of Watson providing something different for the team, and the fact that we have many needs left. It kind of is the summer of Josh Kroenke in my mind. He, after he fired Malone and Booth, talked about how maybe he needed to be a little more hands-on. And then he hired the dual GMs, which have been reported that they're kind of like the Josh Kroenke puppets. And so I was like, okay, Josh, if you think you are so good at running a basketball team, this is kind of the time to prove it, especially because of all these big decisions. And like you're saying, these trades that might be coming down the pipe are really pivotal. And I guess there's the potential that they could make this trade seem better than it is on its face. It's still a salary dump no matter what, but what can they then do to pivot? And then they could use Pwat as the excuse and the catalyst to then kind of create this new Nuggets variant. We just don't know what that'll be or what kind of players will trade in or who they'll send out. But it's hard to imagine them winning any trades right now. So not looking good for Josh Kroenke as a basketball executive who's becoming more involved and less putting people in power positions and letting them do what they need to do.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter what comes next because this was a bad trade. Right. They needed to get more out of it. They needed to get a useful play, like they needed to the deal needed to be the 2032 Cleveland first, Jalen Tyson, and Cleveland finds a third team to reroute Zeke to, and they pay the seconds. That would have been the all right, I don't like getting rid of Peyton. You got less athletic, but you added another creator, a player who has shown like an ability to play in a rotation, has been very good, a player that I wanted for Denver in that draft. And you got good draft capital that unlocks some of your other draft capital. I would have been like, you know what? I hated this, but this is about as much as you could have reasonably hoped for if the outcome that had to happen was Peyton goes. What they got was not that.
Yeah. I think we got like as little as I would have expected. Just like the 2 picks.
I mean,
like a first would definitely be in
first
there.
and then a second, which is like whatever. Like they're gonna use that second in a Zeke Naji salary dump later. They're gonna package it with their other seconds and like wait until they're gonna hope at the deadline that 4 second-round picks is enough to dump the last year of Zeke Naji.
I'm not gonna be surprised when they're gonna use a first to dump it because of how they're behaving.
I mean, it's how they've been behaving, right? Actually,
like the stuff that we think like certain picks are valued or players are valued is not, whatever. I don't know if it's almost like they are just playing themselves and convincing them that these returns are the best they can get, or they're coming from a position of weakness and desperation, and they're just they're not holding strong and using the leverage or just the market. I mean, the market was shrinking, the cap space was shrinking everywhere, and there was
no cap space. There was no cap space. No team could offer him an offer sheet. So if a team wanted Peyton, they had to trade with Denver. They had to give Denver what they wanted in that trade. Like, I mean, the Utah Jazz are not a good team, but you can't tell me that they have bad asset management. They just don't, right? They are constantly accumulating assets. And yeah, back to the crossing the fingers strategy of this front office. They have to hope DeMar DeRozan wants to come to Denver. They have to hope DeMar DeRozan wants to come to Denver enough to take a minimum. Now, why is that? Because Tyus Jones is their backup point guard right now. He is the second on ball, just ball handler on this roster, unless you count AG. Which we don't know if we can count on him for a season. Which, frankly, if you can't do that, then maybe all of this is moot anyway, at least for the upcoming year. Denver needs to be getting their secondary creation or even backup creation from somewhere. Like they're just gonna have to sign. Like one of the 2 remaining roster spots I expect to be filled is gonna be from an on-ball creator or ball handler. They're different things, but like somebody's gonna be able to at least bring the ball up the court. And they likely can't trade for anybody to fill those required roster spots because they still have to sign
2
is
more?
it 1 player now? Are they at 12 with Peyton gone? I was wondering
Oh,
about
because
this
we
when we
haven't.
kept getting the smoke about DeMar. So I'm like, are they really going to sign a 15th person?
Mhm. But now we don't have Pwat, so.
But now we don't have Pwat. So yeah, you're right. Just the one. But they still have to sign them. If you want to give DeMar more than a minimum, right now you can't because you're over the second apron, and we've gotten reports that DeMar is looking for exception money, whether that's mini MLE or partial, full. What Denver does not have access to the full MLE. They won't because they're well over the first apron, as well as obviously being over the second apron. In order to access the mini MLE to give DeMar part of that money, you'd have to dump at least Seek Najee, which would then create another roster spot that you need to fill. So you don't actually have mini MLE money. Like you would unlock the mini MLE to give DeMar half the mini MLE, which is maybe even it's less than he would get on a vet minimum right now because he's got over 10 years of service and the vet minimum is almost $4 billion. And the mini MLE is 6 million in total. Um, would a team like Memphis take Zeke and seconds for at least one of their guards? I know Ryan Freemeyer of Nuggets Twitter has been talking about Cam Spencer and Scottie Pippen Jr. as potential targets for Denver because Memphis has not only too many players, but too many guards. So that could be an option. Again, you're hoping that Memphis would go for that, right? Um, you're assuming they don't want to just cut other players and call it a day. And my last reaction to all of this, and this is the most important. What does Jokic think of all of this? Well, if you could go to Miroslav's translation, and maybe you could read this one. I need a
Yeah, he just played. I think they're playing France.
Yeah, in
a
another
game
qualifying game.
And he and Miroslav. I don't. Have we had him on this show? Whatever. We love Miroslav. He asked Jokic in Serbian, so he provided this answer, and he said, "I'm happy for Peyton. He deserved it. We'll miss his energy and skill. I don't think about the season yet. We have to play this, but it's gonna be okay." So, Jokic, it never really, like, he's focused on that basketball out there. It's not time to really worry too much. Like, Jokic is always very present and reasonable and measured, and or doesn't divulge too much to the media, as we know. But him just saying it's going to be okay, does that make you feel better?
No. He's trying to, that's like a soothing, like,
hey, it's going to be okay.
Everyone should stop freaking out. It's going to be fine. That'd be funny.
I'm surprised we got anything from him so soon, but I mean,
honestly,
he is in front of the media.
But they asked him in Serbia, and he was like walking down a hallway with his team, and he was like, "I'll just answer it."
Yeah, I'm glad that Miroslav asked him, and I'm always happy when Miroslav gets to talk to Jokic. But it does make me wonder. Jokic is super professional, and like people pointed out before, not going to be super demanding of the front office and saying what players should come here all the time. Doesn't mean that he's not doing that some of the time, or that the front office are not consulting him. But I do wonder what he did think of, like, how strongly did he want to keep Peyton or not, or if he was just throwing his hands up saying like, hey, this is your guys' decision.
Right, that would be very him. Like, this is your decision, and my player option is my decision. um,
It does make it
Cody,
more
there's
scary.
absolutely a way that Jokic didn't know ahead of time. Like, well ahead. What is well ahead of time? Like,
So players don't even know they're getting traded when they're getting traded, but I guess they wouldn't tell the players that anyway.
Yeah, like exactly. I am just so frustrated. Like this transaction embodies what, like, I feel like a broken record because I feel like I talk about this every off season where the stated goals and the implied goals, because they haven't stated a goal of saving money, but it's heavily implied. Like, it is necessarily implied by this move. So some of the stated goals as well as the implied goals when it comes to roster and cap sheet management just have not lined up. The example I keep going back to, like the older example, and obviously I'm going to go to this one now too, is, when it comes to Christian Brown, their whole idea, like the we're going to draft and develop because you have to like develop your own talent in house because you need to have cost controlled contracts. And yeah, you've got cost control while they're on their rookie deal, but when you get to their third year and you decide we're going to trade this starter and make this guy a starter, and his volume is obviously going to skyrocket, largely from the opportunity. And then we're going to pay him what a defensive player of the year candidate got paid. It doesn't add up because your directive is save money, and all you're doing is giving out contracts that make the roster more top heavy and put more of a squeeze on you when the day to save money comes around. Gaiman says Pwat for a first is like erasing 4 years of work. Yeah, draft and develop. We want to keep Peyton, like all of this stuff. We didn't even get to this, but we have to talk about it. Like, I have heard, I think on Locked On Nuggets, Matt Moore speculate he would not be like surprised at all, and maybe at this point expects them to trade Cam like by the trade deadline. Like, can you imagine if they go through all of this and they trade Cam? And I'm not saying that to say like, oh, like I can't see them doing that. Like that's off the table. That'd be so beyond the pale. Because I think that this trade return is beyond the pale given the position that they were in. So I have no idea what they're thinking. It's just their actions are not coherent with any kind of strategy. Right? Again, like you're trying to save money. You don't force Zeke to be part of the deal. When it comes to the MPJ for Cam trade either. But especially with this one, like you were in a better leverage position now. You're trying to be more flexible and get like better trade. Like you don't even push for the 2032 first round pick, which would have unlocked more of yours and wouldn't change the position Cleveland's in because they have no tradable first right now. They would have no tradable first if they gave us the 2032 instead of the 2031, but we would have more tradable firsts on our end. Because we currently don't have a pick in 2032, which freezes 2031 and 2033. Obviously, having now Cleveland's 2031 unlocks our 2031, but having a 2032 would have unlocked 2031 and 2033 first round picks. So that wasn't optimal either. Like, it is so like half-baked on so many levels, even on the pure like bean counter stuff, that I just can't fathom why this deal happened on August 19th. Where was the pressure coming from to get this done when they did?
Is it because they are eyeing these other trades?
Where are the trades?
Yeah. Well, they clearly missed out on when other people were available earlier, but, restricted free agency for you.
And if you're going to save money and get draft capital back, why not trade? And you're probably going to trade a starter at the trade deadline. Why not trade somebody before the draft in a draft where you were desperately trying to move up to add an on-ball creator could not do so.
Yeah, Peyton did fit a ball, like Basketball Sports Energy is pointing out. Ball handling, rim protection. He had clear uses, and our margin for error is just going down because
there's no margin. Like
Yeah.
what margin for error? Denver was a first round exit last year.
And yeah, you need everything to go right for you right now with this roster currently. In terms of, like you pointed out, all the kinds of hope.
I don't even think everything going right with this roster is enough.
Okay, well that's fair too.
I could have talked myself into everything going right with like just bringing back last year's roster being enough, or even like, okay, you lose Tim and you lose Val, you probably need everything to go right and then some. Like you'd need like a Julian leap, and you need Christian to obviously be better than he was last year on top of that too. I can't see this roster at its best. I can't even make the argument. I can't make the argument. They've lost too much. Some of it not in their control. Obviously, Tim was going to go somewhere if he was offered more than the minimum. Jonas is going back to Europe. Right? I don't know if that's official yet, but that's what it seems like. Like that's out of your control. But okay, you sign Marvin Bagley, fine. You try to like cobble together some kind of Tim Hardaway junior in the aggregate with like, let's hope Julian takes a leap or whatever it is.
I mean, it's
just not
no margin for error with the roster and basketball wise, but no margin for error with whatever the next decisions are. And maybe it's too late.
Exactly. Completely agree. And this was the point that that I brought up on the show before. Shout out to Rayvon Hackshaw for that idea. Is like, that's why you should pay Peyton, is so that you have more options for what you do next. And instead, they do what I was begging them not to do, was make a major move this summer under self-imposed financial duress, and they don't even get the most out of it that they could. Like, I'm not even saying Denver would have been in like a better position than they went into it if they'd gotten Cleveland's 2032 and Jalen Tyson and moved Zeke. I think that's a pretty good return if, again, the directive is like move Peyton. But like, given the market that we've seen for these two-way wings, in like the trade market for these two-way wings, like a year from now, 2 years from now, like Mikal Bridges coming off of like Brooklyn years went for 5 first-round picks. I'm not saying Peyton would have gone for that. I'm not even saying that he would have gone for anywhere like the 4 first-round picks that Orlando paid for Desmond Bane, or even 3. But there's a pretty good chance, especially given the opportunity that he's gonna have as a starter. Although again, like because of the roster dynamics in Cleveland, it might not be that much better than he would have gotten in Denver, even off the bench in terms of on-ball opportunity. Very good chance that he's seen as someone that is like obviously worth at least 2 first-round picks a year from now, and like the equivalent value. So like a good player and whatever, like as like we're not even listening unless this is the starting offer, you know.
I want to get your thoughts really quick on, I don't know if we hit this, the idea that, you know, you could say maybe Peyton didn't want to be here. And did the front office know that? I mean, we're never going to really
Again, I don't care. That doesn't change your negotiating position.
Yeah.
Right? Like Peyton is not some like disgruntled star. He's a restricted free agent. Like, what are we talking about here? You know, like no other team operates like this.
Yeah, I can't believe that he was really I mean, I don't know how it's going to turn out. We can talk about whether this deal could ever look good in the next segment here. But
no,
on its face,
because given the information that we have at the time about who's interested in Peyton, what they're willing to give up to put themselves in a position to trade for him. Tells me that you should have been able to get more out of this.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you said, they got like basically the bare, not even the bare, because I thought for sure, like, okay, if nothing else, they'll probably get a first in one of the years they don't have one and just unlock.
Yeah.
Unlock their other picks. Didn't even do that. Okay. And so now what, right? Like Denver is over the second apron. They can only sign minimum contracts, as I stated, which is why they can't offer DeRozan the exception money that he is reportedly seeking, at least as of right now. Still can't do it if they just move Zeke, by the way. Like, I want to make that very clear. Because they would have to then fill another roster spot, and only then they have a hard cap for the second apron. They have to fit 2 contracts under that. Does Denver trade a first or worse to get off of Zeke's money? That'd be so crazy. Like, more burning of assets. Like, they're just in such a bad position, Will. And they keep digging the hole deeper. I don't understand how you turn this around without like the will to do it. Like, they're just sort of letting this happen, this like slow degradation of the roster, the asset position, and the financial situation. Because again, if you wanted to get aggressive about cutting money, you could have not been shooing away people that wanted to trade for Cam Johnson. You could have not just let this deal happen without making Zeke Naji the other team's problem. Or Zeke Naji's contract the other team's problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's just like, on any level you look at it, there's just no positives.
Yeah, well, it would have to take a long time, maybe a couple seasons even, to see how good Peyton is.
It doesn't matter. Again, Will, it doesn't matter for like how I view this deal. Because Peyton Watson being bad next year doesn't make Denver's position better next year. Like, what happens to Peyton Watson after this doesn't change the position that Denver's in now or next year. It just doesn't.
You could say that they like, because they're going to say we didn't want to overpay Peyton, and we didn't. They're not even going to say it. They're not going to say that they didn't believe in him, because that's crazy. They're probably
they'd be
just
like
Daryl
Morey and be like, well, we felt
like
we were. Well, actually, Daryl Morey was pretty cold in what his assessment of Jared McCain, where he's like, we felt like we were selling at the peak of his value or something.
Mm-hmm. But
and I would just say, if you felt like you were selling at the peak of the value, why couldn't you not at least get the 2032 first round pick? Like, what are we talking about here? This is ridiculous. Like, I can't genuinely entertain like good faith defenses of this deal, because it's not optimal on any level you look at it, from any perspective that you look at it. And what Denver needed was a deal that was optimal in some direction, because they finally had leverage and they didn't use it.
Mm-hmm.
And they let it go. They not only didn't use it, they let it go on August 19th. And the only explanation that I could have for that is that actually they were desperate to move Peyton as soon as possible. And when they heard that Cleveland was like, okay, we're gonna get ready to pivot to Jonathan Kuminga.
His first offer that he got, they took.
That first one that we'll just take that. We'll just do it. Which is crazy to me.
Yeah. Okay, I accept that fully. Like, it will never look good. But wait until the front office, which you don't have to care about what they think, of course, obviously. But they could spin it sometime where if Pwat doesn't quite live up to the contract, that they
talk about it if
got off of it
his contract,
and say they flipped him for multiple picks that they could then use in trades down the line
multiple
to reshape
picks.
the roster. 2 picks.
It's a
One
second.
first
One of
that
them
they
is
can
a
trade.
second. Like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh.
Yeah, flexibility again. It's always flexibility, and then but we're just way less flexible every time.
You know what I'm
Moment of
cooking right
silence.
now? Gifted Hoop says I'm trying to cook. I'm cooking some dubious food on Legend of Zelda. That's what's happening. I'm just throwing everything into the pot and seeing what happens. Which honestly, like, I feel like this is the front office strategy. Like, I don't think they have a
Mm,
coherent. I like if you get an edict from the company that owns your franchise that says you got to slash money. All right, we need to, like, they probably got that edict last summer too, which they did. Like, they needed to get under the luxury tax. That's why they traded MPJ to put them in a position to, be able to get under the luxury tax at the deadline. Did all that, knew that, okay, like, we're working for some cheap owners. Like, we gotta really, like, rein some things in. Still gave Christian the contract that they gave him. 5-year deal. I'm like, I would not have done a 5-year deal. I would not have done a 5-year deal if I were Christian's people, because I would have said, like, I believe in Christian. I believe in myself. Like, I would have wanted to re-enter free agency sooner than that. I don't want to do that. I would not have done the 5-year deal if I was the team. So I'm like, I would like a contract that has a little bit more flexibility to it, that is going to end sooner and be easier to trade should we need to pivot. Next summer, they're trying to trade Peyton Christian Brown before the contract even kicks in. Right? They have not done anything to optimize flexibility, to optimize the roster, to optimize the asset position that they're in. It is just like doing stuff and like seeing what happens.
hmm It's almost like, because I heard Ryan mention, which was a good point, that this might be making a decision in terms of they're choosing the veterans, right? They're keeping the veteran starters, and the bench is
And
obviously
that's
a huge
fine.
concern,
Like,
huge concern.
okay, sure.
But it almost feels like it wasn't an intentional decision, and more like it was made for them because of their incompetence to force any issue or to have any vision or have any strategy. It was just kind of like, building around these starting fives just hard, so we'll just keep them, or shifting away
That's
from
fine.
them.
Again, like, almost all of my critiques are about what this deal should have looked like, even if Peyton's going anyway. Right?
Mm,
Like, it's just so, it's lacking in, what's the word I'm looking for just uh like a force of will.
yeah.
No pun intended. For, like, this is what we want to do. And then they just end up getting
Yeah.
nothing. Like, it's
Yeah. Especially because, like you said earlier about, no mandate to save money or to get under an apron or whatever, and then saying Pwat resigning him was the top priority. Well, clearly it wasn't.
well, yeah, but like, they can lie to us. I don't actually care about what they told
Yeah.
us. Like, I actually care more about, like, the rumors that we heard about what they're doing, in terms of, like, they're like hanging up the phone if you ask about Cam Johnson, and um
Mm,
uh giving Christian Brown the contract that they gave him when they gave it. It's like, if you knew that they were going to be this strict on the money lines, why would you not have squeezed further?
That's what we thought they'd do for
And if you're
once.
not going to squeeze, then you need to be willing to pay. Like, if ownership came down and was like, we got to just pay Christian, whatever. And then the next summer they're like, well, we don't want to pay. Like, I put the blame on them too, obviously, right? It's their franchise. Like, what are we doing? You own a sports team. Pay money. This is
hmm
Swipa's point, right? It's like, what's the point of
hmm
owning a sports team who's like, the Lakers' valuation went up 25% in a year. Which is insane. Like, that's not I don't expect that to be the case for every team, whatever it is. Salary cap is only increasing like 5% per year right now, but we know these valuations are growing faster. We know about all the dumb money that is coming into sports more broadly, the NBA more specifically. And yet you have all these owners crying poor while taking out loans against their assets to fund their lifestyles. But,
Yeah, I mean, this is just horrible for fans. It's the same. We're seeing these repercussions across many different scenarios with many different tiers of players in terms of not being able to keep your draft picks, and the owners don't want to pay. They build in this excuse, and they don't treat the team like a community product, and it's just bad for the fans, and we don't get anything from this.
I love that you brought up this point about some of the roster building complications, because I had shared out for some reason Twitter like redid where your reposts go, so I can't like find all of them, but Betsy Cash Money from NBA Twitter made a really good point yesterday about how this is like, you can't even argue that it's about the roster building implications, because it is all about the money. And we know it's all about the money because teams don't care about some like far off, like 7 years that frozen pick that obviously gets like quote unquote thawed after you get out of the second apron for like a couple of years or whatever. We know they don't care about that pick because they trade first round picks all the time to dump salary, to save money. Okay? This is not about the roster building implications for them. And pretending like it is, I think, plays into a dangerous fantasy. Okay?
Yeah. K Gold says nuance is lost on Podcats and in comments section. This team can still win the chip. Margin for error is narrow, but they're still probably top 10 team in the NBA. I mean, I did want to bring up the fact that
no matter top 10 team in the NBA. I don't deny that. I also think they are not winning the championship next year.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see what the roster finalizes as, but it does seem hard to imagine for sure. With Jokic, maybe you always have a chance, but you also have to have people be healthy, and that's a whole nother discussion. But yeah, like Peyton Watson isn't like the end all be all for the Nuggets' chances next year. Like, even if we signed Pwat, there were still questions and needs, and I get that not maximizing his value is why most people are having this reaction, and because it just is, you're just going further back in terms of addressing the needs and shoring up weaknesses around Jokic
right.
and the starters. But like, yeah, there was always a question that Peyton Watson wasn't going to be
anyway. You need to make sure that what you're getting back is able to help plug some of the holes.
Mm-hmm. But they do that. Yeah.
And like, I want to address that comment about the nuance. I talked about the nuances in this deal. I talked about how even by the standards of what they were trying to achieve, they didn't achieve those things. I talked about how even if what they wanted to do was address flexibility when it comes to draft capital, and they didn't value Peyton that much, it's not that good because they didn't even get the most optimal draft pick to increase their own flexibility with their own picks that they can trade. They didn't do that. I'm not like, and again, I'm not even talking about like, oh, you have to get like Cleveland's furthest out pick. You gotta like force them to give up their 2033. No, get their 2032 because you don't have a 2032, which freezes the picks around it. They didn't do that. They got a 2031, which is like whatever. Okay, they didn't get a player back that could be useful. They didn't force Cleveland to make Zeke Naji their problem, since they're the ones that want Peyton enough to pay him for a 4-year deal with a player option and give him a starting spot. If Cleveland wanted Jonathan Kuminga, they could have gone after him at literally any point this summer. Nothing was stopping them. Like the rumor mill around Jonathan Kuminga has dried up so fast this offseason. Clearly, they wanted Peyton more. I mean, that's why they made him the priority, right? So make them figure it out. And if not, then stop being so desperate. Like you said, Will, it's like they pretend or they act. I don't think they're pretending. Like, I think they're acting as if they don't have the leverage that they have, which is worse. Because I'm do you even understand like the position that you're in right now? And I thought for most of the offseason, because they didn't accede to Rich Paul's demands earlier on in the offseason and trading Peyton somewhere that was going to give them, I don't even know if it was a worse return than this, honestly. Or just paying Peyton like whatever he wanted, which wasn't going to happen because of the financial concerns. And then they do this deal in the middle of August with no obvious pressure on them. There's no deadline. We've already passed the deadline for when a player would have had to be signed to be trade eligible by the trade deadline. So I have no idea why they felt the need to do this when they did, other than playing desperate.
Yeah, because you have to ask, is this the best offer they got? But if you wait, maybe you're going to get something better, and you could force the issue a little bit. But they're just kind of surrendering now. Or Peyton just takes
the offer that you gave him.
Yeah, make him sweat it out. That's why these things go to the last second.
Which makes their agents work harder to get a better deal for you, because you have the leverage. That's why the agents were the ones that were working the phones, going around to all these teams, like saying, hey, like, you interested in Peyton Watson? Like, you got to make a deal with Denver. Like, can you offer this player? Can you offer that player? Apparently not. Can you offer this draft pick? Can you offer that draft pick?
Yeah, but the agents are also, they want to get this done sooner, of course. And the agents, of course
they do. So they're going to work even harder. Like,
yeah.
What are we talking about here?
Yeah, like Gifted Hoop said, Cavs legit cannot afford to run the same roster back. You could have pressured them. It's like they're not aware about these other team situations too. They're so focused on their own situation. But like you said, it was a salary dump, luxury tax bill. It almost didn't even matter. They were, desperate to move Peyton. And when they re-signed Spencer, I thought, good for them. They went to the second apron, and it made me more confident they were going to keep Peyton and maybe just go in the second apron and run the team back. But now I'm just like waiting for whatever first moves come to duck the apron as soon as possible. I mean, I have heard sentiments that this might actually be one of the better returns for Peyton they could have got, because John Collins didn't even get a first round pick back in that deal with Detroit. And so the idea that Peyton got a first, the Danny Ainge.
What are we talking about? Like, no. The identities of the people sitting across from each other at the table, or I guess sitting on the phone, matter. Clearly. Okay. Thank you, Gifted. Perturbed is definitely the word. That's what I am right now. I'm perturbed. All right. Anything else that you want to say about this deal? Like again, congratulations to Peyton Watson. I genuinely think this is about as good of a reasonable outcome as could have happened in this summer, which tells you that Denver, like, not that Denver didn't do their jobs, because actually, even if Denver had done what I wanted them to do, given Peyton going, it still could have been a good outcome for Peyton. They didn't do that. I guess this is what happens when you criticize Rich Paul. He just says, well, I still got one left in me.
Yeah, like we had been talking about, the Nuggets being in the second apron, making a sign and trade deal harder. Little did we know a deal was coming right around the corner, but we didn't think that the Nuggets would.
Well, we don't know how quickly this came together. So, like, Cleveland was only in the conversation.
Well, I just mean in terms of when we talked about it and then the deal happening.
We've been talking about it all summer, so like.
I'm talking about the episode with Rich Paul where we after we signed Spencer, and you were talking about a complicating sign-in trades. It wasn't that much longer after we've been talking about that this happened, but
a few weeks.
We didn't think the Nuggets would agree to such a deal, so it was just like,
no, we literally were like, Denver would not do a deal where they don't get a player back. And then here
Yeah,
we are. Here we are.
I guess we
We got
should
a
have
question
known.
about talking about the Peyton Watson fit in Cleveland. We touched on this a little bit, but when you're looking at a starting lineup of Donovan Mitchell, James Harden, now, confirmed to be coming back to Cleveland. Um, Evan Mobley and Jared Allen hanging on over there in Cleveland, because Cleveland does not want to play Evan Mobley at the 5. I think that's so interesting because I wouldn't put it out of the realm of possibility, but I really thought Jared Allen would get moved this summer for just like a okay, like a center that just does, like, a cheaper center that does center things. So I think Jared Allen's really good, but that contract, next to like the other ones that they've got, is pretty constricting. Um, and that's not to say he doesn't deserve it. I just don't think that they necessarily need like a top end center, necessarily, when they have all these other needs, particularly on the wing, right? Like, then they've been trying to solve that problem for a couple of years now. Um, their depth is not the best. Obviously, we're comparing everything to Denver now, but their bench, Sam Merrill and Jalen Tyson, they traded Strus, they traded Schroeder, they now traded Trey Mann, and they're gonna be waiving Cam Whitmore. So, like, their bench is Thomas Bryant, Craig Porter Jr., Sam Merrill, and Jalen Tyson. It's pretty small.
Hmm.
So, like, they're pretty small, actually. So maybe that's why they're like, we want the two
Oh
bigs.
yeah,
It's just to
starting
like
lineup's gonna be
supplement
big.
that. Um,
Hmm.
but how Peyton Watson fits into it all, I think that his usage level won't go up that much. It'll just be like he'll be playing more minutes and he'll be a starter. Um, he'll probably get to do more in the stagger lineups, especially I want to say when Harden is off the floor, he'll probably touch the ball more. Just because of how Harden plays, it's not like a value judgment thing. Because Donovan Mitchell plays a little bit less of like a pick and roll heavy um offense when he's kind of the hub of things. But I think defensively it should be a pretty good fit. Especially, like, we haven't gotten to see Peyton play with like real like defensive size around him, and Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. So that could be really interesting. That could allow him to focus more of his talents on the perimeter more consistently, which could be really interesting for Cleveland. Um, and honestly, I think, like, if you're giving him, he's getting more opportunity without having to up his usage too much. It might be an opportunity for Peyton to really hone his defensive chops, on a team that has so much on ball star power. And I mean that in both like Harden, Mitchell, and also Evan Mobley, right? Is also, definitely getting those reps now that he's making 30% of the salary cap. Um,
Mm. Do
so I
you?
think that, like, I think defensively it's a more interesting fit to me than offensively. Like, I just don't think that his role is
Yeah.
going to be that much different offensively than it is in Denver,
Hmm.
in terms of like being on ball more. But I think defensively he'll be doing some different things because he'll almost never have to worry about anything on the interior.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. He'd kind of been pivoting more towards offense in Denver, where at least in terms of what he was adding to his game, of course, because he was already lengthy shot blocking wing, um, and that was like his bread and butter. And we were waiting for him to kind of put it all together. But like we would have needed him to kind of. I mean, we had expectations for his creation for sure, but maybe more expectations for his defensive impact. And I wonder if the Cavs are gonna kind of have him swing that way too. Um, it's going to be interesting to see his development, and I'm going to have to like root against him becoming this all-star player, even though I mean, of course, the chances of him being an all-star on the Nuggets was probably zero, since we've only ever had one all-star in the Jokic era, and that's not Jokic. So it wasn't like Pwat was going to all of a sudden be an all-star just because he was on the Nuggets.
Yeah. And I think that
But he's
East
gonna kick our
All-Star,
ass every time we play him, I bet.
competition is a little bit tougher this year than years past also.
Mhm.
So I don't necessarily, but I definitely, I wouldn't be like shocked at like a fringe or like sub all-star type leap um from Peyton. I just think it's going to manifest itself more on the defensive end than
Mhm. That's what
Basketball Sports
you would
Energy
think.
says I think Watson can be an OG Bridges, Jaden McDaniels type player. All three of those players are very different from each other. I think a lot of people see him as like a Mikal Bridges, but I don't see. We'll see. Like, I don't see in the short term that level of offensive polish. Um, Something closer to like what OG is offensively, I can definitely see. Defensively is where I think he really needs to. Where I think like the most reasonable meat is on the bone in the short term. K Gold says our bench is going to be better than the Cavs bench, at least. Like, says who? Like, we have no idea. I think
Says
you guys
K
forget like
Gold.
how you guys were kind of spoiled by a near neutral bench last season. We kind of forgot like we had like minus 16 net benches within the last 3 seasons.
Mhm.
With Jokic
I
off the
do
floor.
appreciate K Gold's optimism, though. I'm just gonna shout that out because, now's the time to crash out and be mad at the front office. But I'm not giving up on the Nuggets. I want to see what they do. I want to see how Jokic is this season. I want to see how AG is this season. I totally get fans who are like, "I'm over this team." Apparently, CT said he was like done. I haven't seen his comments.
CT's been done for
Friend of
like,
the show.
or saying he's done for weeks.
Hey,
He's one of the
we
people I
all
was
get
kind of
to.
spoofing when we talked about how like, um, I've heard that this team was like out of title contention for months, but suddenly this is the thing that's going to knock them out of title contention.
Mm,
But
for sure.
CT is so done that he's in the live chats being like, "I'm done."
Did you say everything you want to say about DeMar DeRozan and what you think about him coming to the team?
He's not going to be a fix all. I think the best
Well,
that
that's
you
for
can
sure.
hope for is neutral because you're introducing new problems on both ends of the floor, frankly. And hoping that he can make enough buckets to make up for it. Um, is where I'm at. I also am not like I don't understand the confidence that Denver's going to get him.
Yeah, just because there's like
Especially because Denver
smoke
can only
around
sign a minimum, and
the.
for a minimum he could go anywhere.
Yeah,
So
but maybe he wants get a Jokic bump.
in his age 37 season,
Oh dang, yeah.
like I don't think
No,
that
it's a
he's
lot.
thinking he's going to get a big contract after
Yeah,
this.
it's more likely
Actually,
that
his
it would
age
end up.
38 season because he just turned
Oh
37.
Jesus, it's more likely it would end up being like a Russ thing than a
Yeah.
KCP thing. So
Yeah.
he would fit our 2 point dominance, but not help us with the 3 point game or defense. So yeah, I just don't know what to think. I have no thoughts about DeMar DeRozan.
DeRozan would be a better
Uh,
fit for the Pistons because the Pistons offense can't get any worse. So
yeah, true. Oh man, do you think you'll ever, or like, where do you? How curious are you then to see where the Nuggets go, and like, do you think that they can salvage anything and make it to a finals at all, or do you feel like this deal has shot themselves in the foot so much that you can't even see them kind of
oh, you
putting
mean
something
like
together?
where the team goes.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna watch them, right? Like, I think they're cooked, but they're still my basketball team. Like so of course
Mm.
I'm curious like what's gonna happen here. I'm more curious, like I think the West is not that good this year. I'm not prepared to say that they're definitively worse than the East. Like the East has to like prove it to me. They still haven't had a season with a winning record against the West in like well over a decade. Um But I'm more curious to see like where they fit into the picture of the West. I think it would not at all surprise me if this team, as constructed, is top 3 in the West again, because I just don't think that the conference is that good. Could very easily see it going pretty south and them ending up without home court advantage in round 1. And I mean like not 5th, but like 6th seed kind of thing. I can't see them falling into the play-in, but you know, you never know kind of thing, because there's always like a random West team that like has a great season out of nowhere. And you could have like
True.
2 of those just kind of pushing things down, especially
But
if
it
Denver
is
is like floundering.
Yeah. It is nice the East is getting better and that Pwat went East. Most of the teams that were interested, besides the Clippers, were in the East that were interested in Pwat, and he did end up going to Cleveland. But I have more hope for the Nuggets.
Who's Peyton Watson going to be guarding when we play the Cavs?
DeMar DeRozan. No, I don't know.
It's probably going to be guarding Jamal.
Jamal.
Can you imagine Peyton Watson going at Jamal? Like offensively?
Locking him up, like
offensively.
Oh, do you think we're gonna put Jamal on Peyton just because he's guarding Jamal?
I think we'll put Jamal on Peyton because we'll probably think that that's the easiest assignment for Jamal.
Yeah,
like that. Like you're looking at the other options.
Like the yeah, I guess that's true. Don't want him going hard in.
That should be fun. I'll probably sleep for those games. Yeah, I should on tape the next day. Actually need to. I'm just gonna while we're live here, just scroll down to the Nuggets schedule and see if those Cavs games are national TV.
They should shift them to national if they haven't yet. But maybe the league doesn't care about.
No, the league absolutely does not care about Peyton Watts' return. Like, what are we talking about? Okay, so let's see. Cleveland. Do we not play Cleveland until the new year?
Could be. K-Gold, we won 54 with all the injuries. Healthy, we could win 55 even, no Pwat or Tim Hardaway Jr. I mean, a lot of our best lineups last season and the main guys did not play together that much last season at all. So keep that in mind. It's definitely not over for the Nuggets.
At Cleveland on January 9th is the first time. We'll see that.
Do you think Nuggets are more likely to trade a starter before the season or at the deadline?
What day is media day? It's in October, right? Like the first week of October, because our preseason game is October 5th, or I guess media day would be September, actually, like the end of next month. If we've got a preseason game on the 5th. I could totally see them like taking the coward's way out and trading a starter between media.
They don't have to be questioned about it.
I could so see that happening.
Oh, we might have disconnected from the stream. Are we back? Are we on? If you guys can see us, let us know. We might have disconnected for a second.
I can see it. I've got the stream open on my phone.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah. So that's all I've got to say about the deal for now. We might have people on to join the struggle.
Bobby Marks' predictions did not come true.
So I forgot about this. So I had a thought when Bobby said, like, I think they're gonna re-sign him. I was like, this is about to be the kiss of death, isn't it? but I didn't
You know,
want to
Bobby
say
Marks
it
was
out loud.
awesome and loved him on the show. And it was awesome that he took his time to come on. But yeah, quite the jinx. He needs to go on No Jinx and get that curse off
Right.
him.
Well, he never claimed to be a prognosticator,
Yeah, true.
but he even says Bobby is evil. He gave us false hope.
Yeah.
Vic Lombardi could be an interesting guest, actually. All right. So that does it for our conversation about this trade. I did want to touch on this stuff with the Clippers investigation because I also had words on that. I had
Yeah.
thoughts, although
Whenever
this trade has been emotionally draining.
whenever Nuggets fans are down, we can enjoy some LA drama and suffering.
Right. I didn't even think about the so we're gonna do our NBA tea time segment here. And yeah, both major stories are about the two LA franchises. First one we got to talk about is obviously the Kawhi investigation because it is this ongoing saga. An article from ESPN came out a few days ago. Quote, the NBA has found no evidence showing LA Clippers owner Steve Ballmer funneled money through team sponsors to play Kawhi Leonard in order to circumvent the salary cap, sources told ESPN. This was an article by Don Van Natta Jr., Baxter Holmes, and Ramona Shelburne. Very well sourced trio that they've got there. I think within a couple hours, so I didn't see the article immediately, but it was pretty quickly after I read the article that the NBA spokesman Mike Bass came out with a statement they put out across their platforms there. It said ESPN's article regarding the LA Clippers investigation, for which the NBA declined to cooperate, contains numerous and significant inaccuracies. The results in this matter will be made clear once the investigation is concluded. The wording there is interesting. They're like, well, we didn't cooperate with this article. I noticed that the article did not have a decline to, like, we contacted them and they declined to comment note. So it seems like the NBA just like didn't talk to ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
You could just pick up the phone and be like, oh, we're not commenting on an active investigation, right? Like that could have just been, but they said, well, we just didn't cooperate with the article. So I was like, okay, whatever. Obviously, like my first impression reading that was like, this is CYA. The article was a trial balloon where they're like, we didn't find anything to punish Ballmer with, and we're not going to do anything because we can't do anything. There's a lot of learned helplessness going around among the powerful these days. But I do think that another possible and like very plausible interpretation of this is that ESPN is very well sourced for the article among like the Clippers, and like they had a bunch of people saying like, well, we saw these like initial findings and they told us they didn't have anything on us. So like you should write an article about that. And we're going to write an article about that. And then I'm sure ESPN did try to contact the league. But the league, even in their own statement, says, well, we didn't cooperate with the article. So it's like, well, if one side's cooperating with your article and the other one isn't giving you anything, like this is what we've got. Right. Including it's like, well, if there's clearly wrong stuff, like you would want to pick up the phone just to be like, okay, what's the stuff the other sources are telling you so that we can get ahead of any like clearly wrong stuff that, you know, that they're putting out there about our investigation. Whatever. There was another interesting part of this article that had a lot of NBA Twitter up in arms because it seemed like, again, Betsy Cash Money, who herself has a background in labor and employment law, seemed to be defending the position of the Clippers and Kawhi. But let's dig into exactly what that was. Again, this is a quote from the article in question from ESPN. It says, instead, the NBA is focused on whether the team's introduction of Leonard to team sponsors, in this case, Aspiration, constitutes a violation of the league's rules prohibiting salary cap circumvention, two of the sources said. The league is examining whether the Clippers are guilty of, quote, failure to supervise employees, though it's unclear what specific rule the team would have violated or what the penalties would be, two of the sources said. There are layers to this. When I read this paragraph, to be very clear, I did not like it. It went so far over my head because I was like, this is obviously dumb. Like, you can't punish teams for introducing players to sponsors that happen to be sponsors of the team, right? That has nothing to do with salary cap circumvention, unless you make it have something to do with salary cap circumvention, right?
Yeah.
Another layer is the characterization here of like, well, the league's trying to go after us for introducing a player to a sponsor. Is, we know, coming entirely from the Clippers side because the NBA did not cooperate with this article, right? So we don't know if the factual inaccuracies that Mike Bass is relaying here, and he kept it pretty vague purposefully, obviously, had to do with the Clippers statement that the investigation, quote unquote, found no evidence of funneling money via team sponsors for salary cap circumvention purposes, or whether the quote unquote inaccuracies in the article had to do with this characterization of what the league's sort of next steps are in terms of trying to punish the Clippers are, whether they're trying to punish the Clippers, whether they're trying to punish the Clippers in this way. So I want to be very cautious about that because we don't know what the actual intention is here. But I think it's pretty clear to everybody, like everybody could agree that like trying to punish the introduction is like stupid. Especially because I think whether they've got it or not, like we know from Pablo Torre's investigations, they've got a lot of better stuff to go after. And I want to make it clear why they're doing all of this, because part of what's happening right now is it seems like from all the reporting, the investigation is still kind of ongoing, but they're mostly pretty much done with it. And now they're just trying to figure out like what's the appropriate punishment. It seems like they're probably not going to go with the maximalist interpretation of the commissioner's authority over salary cap circumvention purposes, which basically says like if we find this, and there could be just circumstantial evidence, but if we find this, like we can do pretty much whatever we want to you. Like if my name were Adam Silver, right? So why are they doing all of this? The league presented initial findings of its investigation, led by law firm Wachtell Lipton, Rosen and Katz, to the Clippers in late July, right? We talked about that initial findings report. According to multiple people familiar with the matter, in recent days, and this is bolded, both sides have been negotiating a resolution to the investigation, the people said. And then it lists all of the attorneys involved and said the talks at times have been, quote, spirited, one source said. And the reason that they are trying to negotiate a resolution to all of this is that if the Clippers, the league, and the Players Association don't all agree on a conclusion of the investigation and the like whatever the punishment is, like the overall resolution, like what's the outcome of all of this, then it has to go to arbitration, which opens everybody up to discovery. And nobody wants to do that. So I actually think that like everybody kind of has leverage on each other in that sense, because nobody wants to open up their books to discovery and having to go in front of an arbitrator to present, all of this evidence that would then become public. Eventually, I don't think that it would necessarily become public during arbitration. But you don't even want it to get there because you don't want that stuff to become public or, possibly get leaked. I would love that. But
yeah, I want to see all of it.
But again, I think the point about like, so what's the evidence? Like we talk, like we talked a little bit about the aspiration deal when the reporting first came out, and I just kind of told everybody, like, you got to go watch Pablo Torre. And
Yeah.
his, like, now I think 14-part investigation on this. You probably only need to watch the first, like, 3 or 4 to get, like, the lay of the land of, like, this kind of smells pretty fishy. Um, but I wanted to just show everybody what the CBA language around cap circumvention and the evidence for it actually looks like. So this is the relevant clause here, which is a subclause on. There's literally a section that is cap circumvention. Okay, this clause reads: a violation of Section 2A or 2B above may be proven by direct or circumstantial evidence. So, like connecting dots, including but not limited to evidence that a player contract or any term or provision thereof cannot rationally be explained in the absence of conduct violative of that section on salary cap circumvention. Okay. The point is, if there's a player contract that looks fishy, and we have circumstantial evidence that says it doesn't look fishy in a way that can be rationally explained outside of cap circumvention, then you can conclude that there was cap circumvention. Like, they are allowed to do that. And then the point is, like, what's the punishment from there? Now, the crux of this case is Kawhi had this no-show deal with Aspiration, which was a fraudulent company, but didn't need to be a fraudulent company for this to be relevant to the NBA. But the fact that they went down for fraud and all of their books became public because of their ongoing bankruptcy is how all of this was found out by the public. So that part is relevant. Gave Kawhi, it was originally like a $28 million deal with Kawhi, for which there's no record that any kind of sponsorship stuff was done. They never like used his face on anything, or he never like sent a tweet about like planting trees, which is like the whole thing with this company is they did carbon offsets with planting trees, but they weren't actually planting the trees. This is the whole thing, right? And this company also happened to be, at the time, the named sponsor for the Intuit Dome, right? That has since changed because they went bankrupt and they were a fake company, and so they are no longer associated with the Clippers. But Steve Ballmer was independently an investor in that company, and there was a series of very interestingly timed payments between Steve Ballmer and the company, and what the company was giving to Kawhi Leonard for this apparently quote unquote no-show sponsorship deal. Okay, you could just say, like, Steve Ballmer, like, okay, you invested in this company that you also happen to be working with on the Clippers side. Sketchy, whatever. I mean, I don't love it because I think there's a lot of paper trail type evidence there, but maybe it's hard to link. And like the language in that clause from the CBA said, if you can't explain it some other way, then we can conclude cap circumvention by circumstantial evidence. But if you don't have a smoking gun, then you have to be able to say, like, we didn't have other rational explanations, which you could say there were some, like, rational, if not far-fetched, explanations for that there. I wanted to share the piece of evidence that convinced me that the burden had flipped to the Clippers to explain what the hell is going on here. And the piece of evidence was this. Aspiration was under investigation publicly, like known to be under investigation by the DOJ, and was publicly going bankrupt for 9 months when Dennis Wong, who is the number 2 of the Clippers, made his first investment to Aspiration, $2 million, or like $1.9 million, something like that. And that same 2-week span, Kawhi Leonard, after his representation at the time, his uncle, had been bothering Aspiration about payments toward his $28 million deal that he had with Aspiration, reportedly had with Aspiration, had been kind of harassing them like, hey, like, you got to pay Kawhi, this, that, and the other. He got that payment within 2 weeks of Dennis Wong giving Aspiration their $2 million. And I think that payment to him was $1.75 million. That same week, they were laying off people
Yeah, they had gone
And there's
bankrupt.
no rational explanation for why Dennis Wong would be investing in a company that
Hmm.
was like, when he makes the investment, has to sign a piece of paper that says, I know this company is at risk of default right now, like actively, because they're like potentially going to be insolvent. Like, that's how bad it had gotten at that point, and they were under active investigation. That was the piece of evidence that I was like, there's no rational explanation for this. Now the Clippers need to explain what the hell's going on here. And unless we hear that explanation, which we haven't, this was
Hmm.
reported, I think, almost a year ago at this point, like this particular piece of evidence. And I haven't heard anything about like, what that rational explanation could be. Not even from Steve Ballmer's biggest fanboy, Mark Cuban. Okay. Um, and so I want to share that piece of evidence with everyone just here. I highly recommend checking out the Publiatory series to like get the full lay of the land there. But yeah, when you hear that the vice chairman of the Clippers
And
and
wasn't there
Steve
like an
Ballmer's college
email?
roommate,
I mean, there were whistleblowers or whatever, and
yes,
comments about like, why
like
are we getting
when
this
if you don't, you're
investment?
like, I don't, right. There were people that worked at Aspiration that said this is
Yeah,
for salary cap circumvention, but you could also argue that like they're assuming that they don't
yeah,
have direct
they
evidence of
don't
that,
actually know.
and they're not necessarily involved directly with the finances either. They're just employees of this company that were whistleblowers. So I can, even though like, I mean, if they're thinking it like where there's smoke, there's fire, I can understand somebody that goes into this story skeptical kind of waves that evidence off. I don't think you can wave off the Dennis Wong investment in Aspiration
Yeah, it
post
was so bizarre.
DOJ investigation, post being like at high risk of like nobody else was investing in this company at this time. That's the thing. It's like
Hmm.
there's not a rational explanation here. And when you couple it with obviously like Kawhi is doing like has this like no show, like there's no like work or like use of his likeness to show for it. It's
Yeah,
like, okay, burden has flipped to the Clippers. You need to explain what's going on here for me. Like, anyway, when will all of this be resolved? Like I said, everyone knows that they don't want this case to go to an arbitrator. Nobody wants to have to deal with the associated discovery and all the documents that would come out. The Clippers absolutely don't want to do that. I'm sure Kawhi doesn't want to do that. And the NBA, maybe they don't care about the discovery part as much because they're not really like necessarily directly involved in that. But they want this to be resolved as soon as possible because obviously an investigation and pending arbitration just makes it more difficult to do business
complete
for trades to
trades.
happen for exactly. So
Benedict
they would like
Mathurin. I don't
to
know.
put this behind them as soon as possible. So all the parties have a vested interest in trying to come to some kind of resolution here. But Ballmer, very proud man, doesn't want to admit to anything, whether he was directly involved or not. And I would find it difficult if they did find evidence of salary cap circumvention to find that he wasn't directly involved with somebody who is a very involved owner of his basketball team.
It's like
Um,
Succession, where someone's like, "Hey, so I accidentally agreed that Kawhi could have a sponsorship where he doesn't have to do anything. He's gonna go tell Ballmer, but Ballmer's like, "Don't tell me. If I don't know, I can't get in trouble for it."
right. Um, if it's like Succession, where is Brian Cox to walk into the Nuggets front office to say you are not serious
Yeah,
people?
God, there were so many Succession memes like, "It's fucking disgusting," and "Are you a sicko?" I was like, I want to post all that about Josh Kroenke and Stan Kroenke with his Pwat trade. I also like this Clipper story a lot more when it was like holding up any possibility of Peyton Watson going somewhere, especially to the Clippers who was going after
Yeah,
him. But
same.
it's over now.
That was my
Damn it.
thought when I first saw this article. I was like, oh no, they're gonna go after Peyton now. They're gonna like clear cap space and like I don't know how they'd clear like full cap space though. Like that would have been quite the haul. I think it's interesting that they took on Max Strus
I know.
because does that does that suggest that they think that this investigation is going to go on longer or like the process because we think the investigation's pretty much done. But do they think that the process is going to go on longer and now they're like let's just like fill out our roster and do stuff and not like hold out hope for whatever. I don't know. Peyton Watson, right? Um, yeah, instead they helped facilitate the deal that sent Peyton Watson to Cleveland. So
Yeah, it's kind of funny.
yeah, I wonder if they knew, because we know that Danny Ainge did not know he was helping facilitate the Luka trade until it was done.
He didn't know he was helping it?
He didn't know he was facilitating the Luka trade because he was like, um, he was kind of like the middleman for like Max Christie at one point. I think I can't remember what it was, but he took so that the Mavs could take on Max Christie. I think they traded someone to Utah along with like second round picks. And so Utah was part of that trade, but they didn't realize like what the big stuff happening between the other two
That
teams
is
was.
crazy. Because if I knew, I'd be like, I'm not helping out with this.
No, I think so too, because I think Ainge hates the Lakers. So he would have tried to like get something out of them. It's not that he wouldn't deal with them, but he would have been like, I'm gonna make sure that they don't win this trade.
Make deals that it's gonna make other teams good. Yeah, for sure. You can help it.
So did the Clippers know that they were helping facilitate the Peyton Watson trade?
I think probably. But I don't know. Like, was this the first offer that the Nuggets got for Pwat? I have no idea. Was the Clippers offer better? People didn't really like a Derrick Jones Jr. swap from what I was seeing online, no matter what you think about that.
No, because like you need a pick too. I mean, now getting Derrick Jones Jr. back maybe feels a little bit better than what they got because they didn't get better.
Yeah.
It didn't even stay the same.
At least we would have had one possible defender instead of zero. Well, speaking of succession, we got some shit on the Lakers too, and then we'll get out of here.
That's a great segue, Will. All right, last piece of tea here. We got some more family drama coming out of the buses. So it seems like the Bus siblings are trying to oust Jeannie as governor of the Lakers. Will they succeed? As a reminder, the Lakers, the Bus family sold majority ownership of the Lakers to Mark Walter last year. Mark Walter is under federal investigation for loan fraud and trying to pay back a bunch of loans right now. And so he's trying to get liquidity, is what it seems like. And so he sold that majority stake of the Lakers to Josh Kushner and Bob Iger. And whoever those people got that really high amount of money from that isn't necessarily commensurate with what we understand of those two individuals' net worth. And the buses had kept in the original deal for the Lakers 17.5% in the Bus Family Trust. And they are currently arguing that they have a tag-along provision that was in the original deal with Mark Walter that says if Mark Walter ever sells the Lakers, as he just did to Josh Kushner, we get to tag along and sell our shares at that valuation. Okay. Problem with that. Now, Jeannie Buss is contesting the siblings' vote. So it was basically like all of the other Buss siblings. I think there's four or five of them. And Jeannie, I think, abstained from this vote because you need to own at least 15% of a team to be the governor of a team in the NBA. And so if they sold it, she couldn't remain on as governor. And it seemed like whatever contract she had in place with Mark Walter, and now it would transfer to Josh Kushner and Bob Iger to stay on as governor of the team, would hold water, but it couldn't if the buses no longer control 17% or 17.5% of the team. And apparently this isn't the first time that her siblings have tried to oust her because she fired, I think, her brothers, and then they basically tried to stage a coup to oust her as the governor of the team. Like they tried to vote to get her out. And this is text from the 2017 court filing, which I found very interesting because whatever this judge found in the paperwork that established the family trust and like what their father wanted, it's very ironclad, like oddly ironclad. Because this ruling says the co-trustees of the trust, and that is basically the Bus siblings, are hereby instructed to take all actions reasonably available to them, including voting the trust shares to ensure that petitioner, in this case Jeannie, because she was the one suing, is elected as a director of the board of the Lakers, which would be like basically the governor of the team, uh, on an annual basis during the petitioner's lifetime, absent a further order of this court modifying the trust. Blah, 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 blah. Basically saying, like, for the rest of Jeannie's life, y'all have to vote her the head of the board of directors for the Lakers, and thus she could make herself governor of the team. And this was back in 2017 when they controlled the majority shares. Now this would just kind of apply over the next this 5-year window, including this past season where Jeannie made a deal after they sold the majority share of the team to originally to Mark Walter and now to Kushner and Iger, where she could stay on as governor. Another interesting piece of this, okay? And this is why I included both clauses, because there were two orders, or there were multiple orders in this, but these two clauses I thought might maybe come in conflict with one another. So the next order from this judge said, the co-trustees of the trust are hereby instructed to take all actions reasonably available to them, including voting the trust shares to ensure the petitioner is elected as the controlling owner of the Lakers on an annual basis during the petitioner's lifetime, absent further order of the court, blah, 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 blah. Okay. The reason I included both, one of those clauses says, all you siblings are like bound by law to vote Jeannie as like emperor of the world, basically, the world being the Lakers for the rest of her life. The next clause says you guys need to make sure that Jeannie controls the shares, has the controlling shares of the team, like for the rest of her life. Obviously, that can no longer be the case as a result of the previous sale. Does that nullify the obligation in the previous paragraph that says, well, you have to keep her on as governor too? I don't know. This is probably going to go to court. The buses are fighting. It's very succession coded. I love, well, okay, I don't love the show Running Point, but I like that Kate Hudson doesn't like phone it in her performance as Jeannie Buss on that comedy. But I would have loved a drama about the Buss family and the Lakers, like a scripted drama, because I do think that this saga and the previous one, like what was going on in 2017 too, would make for some pretty good television.
Yeah, I thought that Jeannie and or Rob Pelinka for sure were in trouble when the first sale happened, and that the new owners would not want to deal with them. And then, of course, promised Jeannie Buss a big role still with the Lakers. And then I saw the report about the Buss family kind of, selling their shares and getting out before I saw, this kind of counter report on Jeannie not wanting to do that.
The more I read about this most recent sort of conflict with siblings, the more it seems like the original sale to Mark Walter was kind of a soft coup by Jeannie, because she's like, I'll just run the team another 5 years and I'm tired of like dealing with these people. And then as soon as the sale was like finalized, she fired all the remaining siblings that were working at the Lakers. And now it seems like they're turning on her. I would love to read more about the story. Like I want like a The Crown style Netflix show about the Busses.
We need to
just the petty machinations. Well, another sports family. Imagine having 6 more siblings. I'm actually the oldest of 8. So
whoa.
Yeah. Fun stuff. And I want to make it clear this story does not affect the sale of the Lakers. The majority shares are not what's under dispute here. It's the remaining 17.5% that the family had retained, and that Jeannie would need to be under control of the family trust in order to stay on as governor of the team. even
Man,
according to
if
whatever deal she had with Walter.
people can disagree with this, but if you are hoping that the Lakers don't become top tier contenders in the West, I would want Jeannie Buss to stay on the team as governor, because I don't think she runs the Lakers very well. But they have really powerful new owner, so it might not even matter anyway if she's involved or not.
Yeah. Rob Pelinka outlasts. Will Rob Pelinka outlast Zeke Naji?
No one outlasts
Zeke Naji on the Nuggets.
Zeke will be on the Nuggets longer than Rob Pelinka will be on the Lakers.
Ooh.
I'm probably going to be
Incredible.
wrong about that, but how can you bet against Zeke?
I know at this point, it's like, what are you doing? Gotta
Unless
follow the
these
data.
4 seconds and a first are required to dump him, and the Nuggets do it.
All right. That about does it for today's show. If you guys have made it this far, I appreciate you listening to my rants. I tried to maintain a level of nuance in my critique of this deal and really look at it from every angle. And from every angle, it looks like garbage. So here we are. We'll be talking about next moves for Denver, if there are any, and we know there have to be because they have another roster spot to fill now.
Yeah, hopefully we'll get some. I mean, this was the first big answer, I guess, of the summer, and hopefully we get some new ones soon.
What was the question?
Will they keep Pwat or not?
Sure. Yeah.
And for how much? And it ended up being 22, which was kind of less than I thought. So annoying.
Yeah, for what it took for. Again, like it didn't matter. Like we went through this whole thing with Kaminga last summer. Like anyway.
Oh.
If you do like our content, please remember to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Leave us a review on your favorite podcast platform. And follow us on socials. Always remember, winning is fun and losing sucks.
Especially losing the worst trade ever.
What did you say?
Losing the worst trade ever.
Although
Luka AD is worse.
Yeah.